Ambassador Zixathala's three hearts hammered in discordant rhythm as she watched the human delegation enter the pristine white chamber aboard the neutral station. The Galactic Council had chosen her species, the Velthari, to mediate these historic first contact negotiations precisely because of their reputation for diplomatic excellence. In her 2 centuries of service, she had successfully brokered peace between warring stellar empires and resolved trade disputes that spanned entire sectors. She had never encountered anything quite like humans. The delegation filed in with what appeared to be relaxed confidence. Their leader, a female called Ambassador Sarah Chen, walked with measured steps that somehow conveyed both respect and quiet authority. Zixthala noted the peculiar way the humans held themselves, not the rigid posture of the militaristic Krethani, nor the elaborate ceremonial stance of the religious Othmaran. Something far more unsettling. They looked comfortable. Across the chamber, the hegemony delegation had already taken their positions. The hegemony represented 47 species united under a philosophy of order, hierarchy, and absolute compliance. Their ambassador, a towering Kralthek named Dominus Vex, stood perfectly still, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's neutral lighting. Behind him, representatives from a dozen worlds maintained their species' traditional postures of submission to superior authority. The preliminary sessions had gone smoothly enough. Standard protocols had been observed, translation matrices calibrated, cultural briefings exchanged. The humans had asked reasonable questions about galactic law, trade regulations, and territorial boundaries. They had seemed genuinely interested in peaceful integration. Then something changed. Ambassador Chen stepped forward to address the assembly, and Zixathala noticed it first. A subtle shift in the human's facial muscles. The corners of Chen's mouth curved upward ever so slightly. Not dramatically, barely perceptible to most species, but unmistakable once observed. The human was smiling. Zixthala's primary heart skipped. She had studied the preliminary cultural reports on humanity with meticulous care. The smile, according to the xenobiological analysis, was a complex human expression that could indicate anything from genuine pleasure to aggressive challenge depending on context and intensity. The reports had noted it as a variable social display requiring careful contextual interpretation. But as Chen began to speak about humanity's hopes for peaceful coexistence, more humans began to smile. Not broadly or aggressively, these were subtle expressions, almost unconscious. The kind that seemed to emerge naturally when humans felt genuinely positive about something. The effect on the hegemony delegation was immediate and catastrophic. Dominus Vex's compound eyes widened to their maximum aperture, a clear sign of extreme alarm in Kralthek physiology. Behind him, a Texari representative began the rapid clicking that indicated mortal terror in her species. The fish-like Aquari delegate's gills fluttered in what could only be interpreted as preparation for immediate flight. Ambassador Chen, Zixthala interrupted quickly, her translation device carefully modulating her tone to remain neutral. Perhaps we might discuss the facial expressions your delegation is displaying. Chen's smile broadened slightly, exactly the wrong response. Oh yes, I'm sorry, we're just excited to be here. This is such an incredible moment for our species. The word excited caused Dominus Vex to take an actual step backward. In hegemony culture, excitement was associated with battle fury, predatory anticipation, or the onset of territorial aggression. The fact that humans could feel excited about diplomatic meetings was deeply troubling. But it was what happened next that truly shattered the proceedings. One of the junior human diplomats, a young man named David Park, apparently found something amusing about the situation. Perhaps it was the visible confusion of the alien delegates, or maybe some private thought about the absurdity of interstellar politics. Whatever the cause, he began to chuckle, a low rhythmic sound that translated across species as something between a threat display and a mating call. The laughter was infectious. Within moments, other humans were smiling more broadly, and few were making similar sounds. To them, it was clearly a moment of shared levity, a release of nervous tension in a historic situation. To the hegemony delegation, it looked like the humans were preparing to attack. Dominus Vex activated his emergency beacon. The humans are displaying pre-combat behavior. They are showing their teeth and making aggressive vocalizations. This is clearly a war party, not a diplomatic mission. No, no, Ambassador Chen protested, but she was still smiling, which only made things worse. We're laughing. It's a sign of happiness, of stress relief. We do it when we're comfortable. Comfortable? Vex's voice rose to a pitch that made several universal translators feedback. You feel comfortable while displaying weapons and making threat sounds? This confirms our worst assessments of human psychology. Zixthala tried desperately to salvage the situation. Perhaps if the human delegation could modify their facial expressions? But it was too late. The humans, now aware that their natural expressions were causing problems, became self-conscious about their faces. Some tried to suppress their smiles, resulting in peculiar, forced expressions that looked even more threatening. Others couldn't help but find the entire situation increasingly absurd, leading to more barely suppressed laughter. Ambassador Chen made one final attempt. Please, Dominus Vex, allow me to explain human emotional expressions. What you're interpreting as aggression is actually— Silence, Vex commanded. The hegemony will not negotiate with a species that finds diplomatic proceedings amusing. Your behavior confirms every assessment of human unpredictability and potential threat to galactic stability. The hegemony delegation filed out in strict formation, leaving the humans looking bewildered and Zixthala wondering how she would explain this to the Galactic Council. Ambassador Chen approached the Velthari diplomat, still wearing a rueful expression that was almost, but not quite, a smile. Ambassador Zixthala, surely there's some way to explain that we meant no disrespect? This is just how humans express positive emotions. Zixthala's second heart sighed, a complex sound that her species made when contemplating the vast absurdities of the universe. Ambassador Chen, I believe I understand your expressions, but you must understand, most galactic species only show their teeth when preparing to bite. As she watched the human delegation prepare to depart, Zixthala made a note in her official report. Recommend extensive cultural sensitivity training before any future human diplomatic contact. Species exhibits dangerous tendency toward involuntary happiness displays during important negotiations. She paused, then added, also recommend we find species with sense of humor to serve as intermediaries. Humans appear to find everything slightly amusing, including first contact with galactic civilization. In the end, it would take 3 more attempts and a carefully selected delegation of comedy-appreciating Zephyrian diplomats before humanity successfully joined the galactic community. The incident became legendary in diplomatic circles, spawning an entire subspecialty in human emotional interpretation and leading to the establishment of the first interspecies facial expression institute. But that was still months away. For now, Ambassador Chen simply shook her head, smiled one more time at the absurdity of it all, and began planning humanity's second attempt at galactic diplomacy.